start when you're ready.
Okay, so as you can see, our presentations on antibiotics in our marine ecosystems. I think I need you to go back one slide.
Sorry.
It's okay. So basically, the components that make up the modern antibiotic that it's being used now are almost all, if not entirely, synthetic. So that means that their components are not naturally derived, as opposed to the original and ancient antibiotics that were cultivated from things such as bread mold, and that would naturally decompose over time. But because our modern antibiotics are not made from natural components, they are able to persist in the environment a lot longer. And that means that they have the ability and means to affect our ecosystems in a variety of ways, including degradation of our coastal water quality, severe population loss of wildlife, and one of the most pressing issues on the rise right now is the emergence of antibiotic-resistant strains of bacteria. And how humans have contributed to this is through overuse of antibiotics, incorrect disposal of antibiotics, and poor treatment of antibiotic waste. And also touching on plastic pollution, because there's a lot of plastic pollution caused by humans. What it does is plastic is able to help antibiotics retain in the ocean, and then it helps the antibiotics travel further in our waters. And this slide here shows you kind of how some of the mechanisms mentioned before, like overuse of antibiotics in our livestock, causing antibiotic resistance. And also the little flow chart shows you how antibiotics used in livestock and humans ends up in our waters. And countries that are seen to have their coastal waters be most highly affected are developing countries such as Africa, Thailand, Indonesia, just to list a few, but generally a lot of countries are affected regardless of their economic status. And for example, across a study of 72 countries, 65% of these countries had waters that contained antibiotic remnants. Yeah.
Okay, so antibiotic pollution can affect marine ecosystems because they're a large sink for human activities, which can lead to persistent pollution in those ecosystems. And these chemicals can enter the ecosystems as products of metabolism or as larger molecules that will break down. And it can affect algae and bacteria all the way up to invertebrates and fish, but the main group affected is microbial communities. So antibiotics can inhibit proteins in bacteria and affect photosynthetic capabilities, which can really affect the growth of bacteria. And the most affected bacteria are those that have no outer cell membrane. And so these are a lot less tolerant to antibiotics and can lead to these entire groups actually being killed off. And so on a larger scale, zebrafish have been shown to have effects with antibiotics like scoliosis and effects on their hatching rate. And the microbiome of larger organisms like salmon can be affected by antibiotics, decreasing their bacterial diversity. So in a study that I'm showing here, there was 2 tanks, the 1 and 2, that had salmon that were treated with antibiotics, and the third tank is just a control with no antibiotics. And you can see that the relative abundance on the bars show that the control had a lot more bacterial diversity than the 2 treated with antibiotics.
So due to the fact that antibiotics were originally designed to alter specific biological activities in their intended organism or intended use, in order to be effective, it's been found to cause a lot of acute toxicity in a variety of organisms that it wasn't intended to be used for. And this could be very dangerous because it could lead to a massive population crash through its effect on the food chain in our marine ecosystems. So for example, there are currently over 36 different types of antibiotics frequently detected in China's coastal waters. And many of these 36 antibiotics have been found to cause acute toxicity in a variety of phytoplankton species. And as we know, phytoplankton makes up a large portion of the base of the marine food webs. And so if there is a large population crash in phytoplankton, it could lead to critical bottom-up effects on organisms that are higher up on the food chain if there's no compensation for the loss of phytoplankton. And just within the last 10 years, antibiotic use was up by around 65%, and we're seeing equally as much increase in antibiotic-resistant bacteria found in our marine organisms, and this subsequently also will affect humans. And it's an issue that needs a lot more coverage going forward, because if we fail to treat regular diseases due to antibiotic resistance, it will lead to a lot of like massive disease spread.
The solutions to tackle antibiotic contamination in marine habitats have been ongoing for quite a while now. In Vancouver, there's a company called Axine Water Technologies who has found a solution for the contaminated wastewater that comes out of pharmaceutical factories. Basically, as shown on the right, the wastewater goes through a catalyst and a hydroxyl radical, which is a combination of one oxygen and one hydrogen, which reacts with the organic pollutants in the water. It breaks the pollutants down and oxidizes them back to their basic molecules, which is oxygen, hydrogen, and nitrogen gas. The water can then be safely reused or go to the sewer. Countries around the world have different levels of antibiotic pollution in their rivers because of different reasons, but they have similar solutions. In China, suggestions to improve their laws and regulations to control the antibiotic pollution in their water and from factories and hospitals have been placed. Other solutions have been found through scientific research, like routine monitoring programs to keep up with antibiotic pollutant rates, amending watering or turning manure to deplete antibiotics faster, and reducing antibiotics in the water via chlorination, UV waves, and pH to reuse the water later for water sustainability. Then, in summary, the emergence of antibiotic resistance in marine organisms is a big issue, as it can lead to a massive population crash, affect marine food webs, and impact ecosystems from bacteria to fish. Solutions like reducing antibiotics by catalysts, manure management, chlorination, etc., have been found to fight against antibiotic pollution and aid in water sustainability. Thank you.